Shall we begin? Let's get started.
Hey, Mom, can I have $20?
I gave you $20 yesterday. Hey, this is Stephanie. You already know that I am the owner and director of Futures Academy here in Victoria, Texas. We serve grades 5 through 12, and we are a different kind of school for kids who have not found success elsewhere. Or maybe you've been homeschooled or met up with some difficult times in public school, and mom and dad just need a little extra help for a while. Give us a call. Our number is 361-433-0322, and we will let you know how we can help.
Another one of today's sponsors is Sam's Crazy Cakes. She is a mom-owned bakery specializing in cakes and sweet treats for all occasions. She has gluten-free, dairy-free, and sugar-free options. You can find her on Facebook at Sam's Crazy Cakes, or you can call her at 361-894-1710. That's Sam's Crazy Cakes. Thanks for listening. Okay, so Mom, you're a business owner, so you haven't started a new job in a while, and you haven't been to school in a while. So when was the last time that you were like the new person?
Oh gosh, probably when I started the job before that. Let's see, that would have made Dakota 17 and he's 24 now, so 7 years ago.
So it's been a while.
Yeah, and a bunch of us were new, so it didn't even feel like that. Like I was with a couple of teachers that were also new. So I don't know, the last time I was truly new must have been working at Mercy Ships before I moved down here.
Oh, wow. So that was 15 years ago at least?
Yeah, something like that.
Okay, well, that's what we're going to talk about today is how, just how to navigate being new, finding your spot, whether you're moving to a new school, a new job, new community, new state even.
Yeah.
Everybody's been new at some point. So, we moved a bit when I was growing up, just around East Texas a little bit, but I remember every move felt significant. And that might just be because I was young. So we lived in, I guess I'm not going to say where we lived because I don't want everybody to.
You can.
No, I don't want everybody to know my secret questions to stuff. Was the street I grew up on.
I'm going to give away all of my... Okay, so which house was it? Describe the house that we lived in.
The one by the creek.
Okay, yes.
Okay, so when we moved from that house, I remember the city was buying our house for eminent domain or whatever.
Right. They actually, they were building they ended up building a dog park, but they bought us out because it was the floodplain. So, yeah, we were renting, so we had no choice but to move.
Yeah, and I do remember that creek was very deep, and I remember when it would rain, it would get high very fast.
Yes.
And, our house, literally, our yard dropped off into it. So,
yeah.
I remember playing out there with Sheridan and Dakota's. I don't know about Dakota, but definitely Sheridan. I remember playing in that creek, and I think she remembers a little bit of it,
Dakota was
too.
Probably 3 or 4, so yeah, he may remember. It was so shallow when there was nothing in it.
Oh, yeah.
It was inches.
We'd find rocks and critters and get our feet wet and trash and all kinds of stuff, yeah.
You know you weren't allowed to be out there, right?
Oh, yeah. You were probably taking a nap and we just snuck outside. But I remember going to school when we lived in that house, and I remember that we moved schools when we moved just a couple towns over.
Yes.
And I remember that new school was very scary, and I think it was probably just felt huge when we did the tour of that school the first time.
Oh, that may be.
You remember you'd go upstairs, and there was, it was a very colorful, big school.
Right.
This is where Dakota got in trouble for the Mohawk.
Yes, I remember.
The same school, right? And I remember then it feeling very scary.
So, that was probably your first experience being the only new kid. I mean, not the only, but you went to pre-K. So the first house you lived in with the river, you went to pre-K there. But that was at a different school from your kindergarten. Mm-hmm. But everybody was new in that pre-K. Everybody was new in that kindergarten. This was a new experience for everybody. But we stayed there 2 years. So when you first moved to the log cabin house... When you first moved there to that school, you were the new kid. It was a small town. A lot of these people had been there since kindergarten. And to you, that's your whole life.
Yeah.
Their whole life, they've lived here.
Because I was in...
Second grade, maybe?
Yeah. And then, of course, the next major move was when I was about 10. Mm-hmm. We moved to Van. I'll say that because our family's from there.
Yeah.
We can't hide from there.
Right.
We moved to Van, and I remember that move was tragic for me. Because I remember you telling us that we were moving, and I was like, oh, absolutely not. This is, like, upsetting. And I feel
Why didn't you want to leave? Is it because you had established friends, or because we were going to live with grandparents at the time?
I don't think that was the big issue, because Grandma's house for the summer was going to be a good time.
Yeah.
But no, I think it was remember I had that friend that lived up the street.
Oh, yeah, the little country girl, the blonde.
Yeah.
Yes.
And we also had so much fun in that house. Sheridan and Dakota and I will all say that was probably one of our favorite houses.
That definitely was a good house.
We played up and down the stairs for hours when it was rainy. We had a horse in that house. Not in the house.
I probably had more.
He came in the house sometimes, but
just the once that I know of. I probably had more minor heart attacks in that house than anywhere else because of things like the horse walking in the back sliding glass door, and the way your brother would jump off of furniture. He was that age when he learned he could be Superman.
I remember that Sheridan and I had a bunk bed, and we'd have doll houses. I mean, you could not see the floor. It was covered with toys, and he would jump off the top bunk onto all the stuff, and then just get up and do it again.
Yes.
And I remember the first time that you saw it, you went, and I remember being like, no, it's okay.
Yeah, he does it all the time.
He's fine. But we also had a playroom in that house. That house also was the first time I had my own room. And so we all have a lot of really good memories in that house, and I think that was probably a big part of that. But of course, then we moved, and
so Van was home for Dad and me.
Yeah.
We grew up there. We went to school there literally all 12 years plus a semester of kindergarten. In our graduating, I'll give you a little background. Our graduating class of 1992 had 92 students, if I remember correctly, and there was about 31 of us that had been there for all 12 years. So we knew each other. We were going home. So I didn't know that it was quite so traumatic for you. I knew you didn't want to go, but I don't think I comprehended that this is, the biggest thing that had ever happened to you at 10 or 11 years old.
Yeah, I think that's it. In another episode we talked about River being upset over small things like her ball falling on the floor, and it's the biggest thing that's ever happened to her. That's kind of on that same greater scale
It is.
that parents probably kind of forget about. Okay, we're moving, and yeah, it's a big deal, but like it is not
right.
But I mean, you didn't know I had all those memories about it.
And as parents, we also have a lot more life experience. We know how to adjust. We know how to find the things we need. We know how to, we're not afraid to approach somebody if we feel lost in our new work environment or something like that. Whereas you don't have that as a kid.
Yeah. So you moved states at 19 years old, right after high school.
Yes.
And that's scary. That's crazy.
Yeah.
And maybe it's not, because lots of people go right to college when they graduate, sometimes states away. But you weren't going to school. It's not like you were going to immediately go make friends in your classes and your sports teams and things like that. So how did you do that?
Well, I had done that. I did move away and go to college for 1 year.
That's true.
However, I was only 80 miles away. I didn't feel like we were still in Texas. Not that says a whole lot, but I was 80 miles away. I could still come home every other weekend if I wanted to. And as time went on, I didn't as much. It was also a pretty calm school. It was a Christian school, and so there wasn't a lot of getting in trouble. I actually went to class most of the time and things like that. So I had intentionally sought out friend groups. I started dating somebody early on. I went to all the freshman meeting groups and all of this kind of stuff. And there was different clubs that you could be involved in, lots of ministries that you could have been involved in. And I think that probably gave me some confidence to go do it in California, because I said I dated someone, but Dad and I had broken up. High school sweethearts had broken up.
Yeah.
Got back together and ended up getting married the following summer. But, and everybody told me, it's so hard to be alone. And I knew that soon he was going to have to go on a 6-month float. He was in the Marines. And so I was really going to be alone. Mm-hmm. So whatever I was going to do, I had 3 months to do it before he was gone for 6 months.
So you had to make your spot and
take a stand. Yeah. Plant a flag, something.
Well, I always say that when I move somewhere, I need to make myself comfy here. I need to make sure that everything I had back home, I can put here. The things that I like.
Where's my new grocery store? Where's my favorite gas station?
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
Who carries Crispitos?
Yes. I need to know.
Priorities, man.
Exactly. So my next question was, how did you deal with the loneliness while he was gone? But you said you had already kind of established your comfort zone.
I did to some degree. However, I had a problem now that I still have to this day, which is my friends 99% of the time come from work. And so I remember there were two girls that I was friends with. One was named Tara. She played guitar, taught me how to make tortellini. I went and hung out with her a couple of times. I think she sort of took me under her wing. She was like 26 or something, and I was 19. And the other girl, I don't even remember her name. But she was married and, didn't have kids and whatever. She was from there. And so it was just kind of hard. And when you go to another job, then you make friends with those people too. So it was a problem. Thank goodness I'm an introvert. I don't know how extroverts do that kind of thing. Maybe they don't struggle because they just, I'll just go to a club or talk to somebody at the laundromat or whatever. I'm not talking to anybody at the laundromat in Southern California. Are you crazy? I'll get mugged.
See, the thing is, I am an extrovert, but I'm not like that. I don't want to just go to a nightclub by myself and make a friend. But I meet a lot of my friends at work too. But the thing is, if I spot someone that I think is going to be my bestie, they have no chance out. They're stuck with me from the moment I laid my eyes on them.
So I know who you're talking about. Tell us about meeting Brooklyn.
Okay, so Brooklyn and I worked at a department store called Schmillard's, and allegedly, and the first day that she worked there, I asked her what kind of music she liked, and I was spot on, and she'll tell you to this day she's offended, but she's not, because it was the music she liked, and it's something that we bonded over immediately. And she's tried to not be my friend. She thinks I kind of talk too much. I'm a loud mouth, whatever. She loves it now. But in the beginning, she was like, I don't know if I can be with you like this forever. Like, I just cannot.
Y'all do have a weird sort of dating relationship type conversations about your relationship.
Not so much that way. But she's like, I don't know if I can handle hearing every thought in your head for the rest of your life.
I didn't know Brooklyn and I had that in common.
Caitlin too.
Yes, Cheyenne, there's a lot of people around you that don't want to hear what you think all the time. Maybe
it's my
you
counsel.
Should listen.
Another one of our sponsors today is Gulf Coast Car Wash. They are family owned and operated for over 25 years in the Crossroads area. They are located at 2901 Sam Houston Drive in Victoria, Texas. Right now, our listeners can get $5 off the deluxe package and the soft touch automatic wash with code 37330. Again, that code is 37330. Check out Gulf Coast Car Wash.
There's a lot of people around you that don't want to hear what you think all the time. Maybe
it's
you should listen. You realize that involves listening.
But
it worked for you.
It did. She was one of those ones that I was like, I just know that you're meant to be my friend forever, and she is. We've grown. I've learned to not be a loud mouth for her and to kind of keep things to myself a little bit. And we've made each other grow that way. That's the thing. If we didn't have that, we wouldn't have stayed friends. But we do want to see each other grow, and we want to see the best for each other. And now we've shared great memories together.
So she's one that you met at work too.
Yes.
And I know some of you're young enough that some of your best friends still came from school.
Mm-hmm.
So where have you met people?
Well, Caitlin and I were kind of acquaintances. And I knew her through one of your students, actually.
Oh, that's right. Her sister went to my school.
Yes. And her cousin went to your other school. So we were the same age, and I had her as a Facebook friend, and so we were kind of just acquaintances, and I, would see things that she posted. I knew a lot about her interest in animal rescue and stuff like that. And so I knew that she was looking for a job at the same time that the company that I worked for was looking for a job, and so I reached out to her. We got her hired, and then the first day that I trained her, we spent like 9 hours in the car that day, and basically trauma dumped. We just told each other every bad thing that's ever happened to us. We talked about so much stuff. And at the time, Dad had died maybe like 6 months before that.
Is that when you were starting the restaurant or the food truck?
Right before that. So I had trained her to do
So I thought you and Caitlin had actually been good friends off and on much longer than that. I didn't realize that.
Yeah, no, we were really just acquaintances. But then, like I said, we spent that 9 hours in the car together that day, and we're instant best friends. Have talked every single day since then, probably, and that's been almost 4 years ago now. But then we ended up working all day together every single day, and then, of course, we both left that job that summer, and we just...
Well, and then you've had another job together since then, I think, and you've done a lot. You did help her work with the rescue, and
we did.
So that is one that came from a different environment. Still work, but lasted.
Yeah, but like I said, the day that we spent in the car, we both were like, "All right,
that was the one that did it."
Forever. Yeah, yeah. And so then, of course, I kind of introduced her to her now fiance, and so we're forever friends. But a lot of my friends, you said I am friends with from high school, and those are, people that are still in my life too. But now I moved away in 2021. I moved about an hour away from here. Mm-hmm. It's kind of a drive. I still come often and visit, but I kind of had to find my new gas station, my new restaurants, my new grocery stores and coffee shops, and where I'm getting all the things. Local libraries. I kind of live in a place that's not really built for people my age. So
that's true. You live in I never thought about that. You live in an area that is for retired people for the most part, or at least, what do they call them, snow bunnies or beach bunnies or whatever?
Snowbirds.
Who come down. Well, I think I may have been naming something else. My bad. But that come down, they spend the summers down here or whatever. It's not for people growing a young family.
They spend the winters down here.
Right, and they're artistic.
It's an art community for sure. And also it's on the coast, right? It's a beach town, so there's water sports people. Well, we're not retired. We're here permanently, and we don't boat, we don't fish, we don't, water ski or anything. So really there's not a lot for us to do there.
Right.
And so we've kind of started having to find friends. Some of the people that we know are just, his parents, friends, kids. There's a girl that I've kind of made friends with that works at the corner store by my house. Mm-hmm. Her kid's a couple years older than mine, so, we've bonded over the mother thing. But I know here in Victoria there's also social clubs. There's the one that used to kind of be a book club.
Oh, that kind of used to be a book club.
I went one time.
Oh.
It's called Social-ish now, I think is what it's called.
Yes.
I think it was called the Reading Glasses before that.
And there's probably a few of those if you went digging for them and reading was your thing.
Yeah.
But what if reading's not my thing?
Yeah. I have always also struggled with, I don't really have hobbies, because I think that's a way that people make friends. Like I said, I live in an art community, but I'm not artsy, but I'm sure lots of people that move that way, that's immediately what they do if that's something that they're...
Well, I asked that question shortly after we moved down here, which was, 2011? Mm-hmm. When we moved to Victoria. Mm-hmm. Because I've been a stay-at-home mom for a long time. I had worked 1 year. I mean, this was new life for us, really and truly. We were intentionally building a new life here. And I asked my friends on Facebook the question, because, those are about as real friends as any you've got. Mm-hmm. Where do you meet friends when you're my age? When you're 40 or close to it, and I no longer need to make a play date for my kids. My kids are old enough to make those arrangements, and I drive them around.
And also, I don't want to be friends with all my kids' friends.
No,
parents.
That's not my group anymore. Exactly. Yeah. And the suggestions that people gave really didn't work for me. The number one that I probably got in this area was, find people at church. Get yourself settled in a new church. And I'm sure that's very true, but church is not where I was wanting to settle in and meet friends.
Although you had that experience in college.
Oh, yes.
That was...
And my whole life growing up in church, those were my friends. I didn't have a problem with church or friends.
Yeah.
But that's not where I wanted to be at this point in my life.
Yeah.
And, I don't go to clubs where you can just be social, like dance. I wasn't a business owner, so I don't feel comfortable doing, what do you call them?
Networking
philanthropic.
Oh,
yes,
yeah.
And so I'm not going to join the Kiwanis Club. I'm not going to, I'm darn sure not going to do a 10K or something like that. And I'm like you, I don't have hobbies. I crochet, but again, what am I going to join the crochet club with Mildred and Nelda and yeah. No.
You could knit with Brooklyn.
Brooklyn and I need to form a knitting club, except I don't know how to knit and she doesn't know how to crochet. So maybe we could teach each other a thing or two. I have started doing something more recently, though, when I put out on social media that I want to have coffee with a stranger. And most of them aren't real strangers because I'm friends with them on Facebook. But I've asked people, hey, make this introduction for me so I can meet this person. And so a while back, you met someone who had run for mayor in our town and were wildly impressed with that person. And so I made a point of meeting them. Through them, I've also met a couple of other friends. I've joined a business network where I'm new, and so I'm still not quite where I feel like I could just pick up the phone and say, hey, do you want to go grab breakfast tomorrow? But I know it's coming because, those women are looking for connections, too.
For sure.
And it's only taken me, what do we say, 14 years to do it? 13 years to do it? I'm right on par for my timeline.
So just real quick, let's talk about another generation. Do you remember grandmother having friends that she hung out with all the time, or is she kind of like us where her partner's her best friend, or?
Partner's definitely her best friend, but it's weird because they don't they don't vibe like friends. Like they don't get the giggles and stuff the way you and I might.
I bet they do.
I grew up with these people. They do not. They would get the giggles over a comedian or things on TV or something and both get to laughing so hard they couldn't breathe. But yeah, they don't, Mom gets annoyed when Dad picks at her, and my partner and me picking each other is how we show love. So their relationship is different. But yes, they did have friends. And so specifically, I remember they both had friends from work. However, my parents worked at their jobs for 20 plus years. And so these were lifelong friends, not just people that you knew from work. So my dad and his quote-unquote work friends, and also brothers and their friends, they went to the deer lease together. They went to NASCAR races together. They went on hunting trips together.
Yeah.
And so some of those men were practically family to me. I mean, one of them, when he retired, moved up the street from my dad. And, he'll come down and pop in on a random Saturday and just hang out for a while and leave.
Yeah.
They also had couple friends, and some of them I don't know where they met. They have a couple that to this day in their 70s, every New Year's, it's either my house or your house. And they go back and forth. I think he may have worked with my dad, or maybe they went to school together. I don't know. But I don't remember them not being in my childhood. So that's a friendship older than me, and I'm 50.
Isn't that very interesting how you and I are very much like pick and choose friends along the way? Some go, some don't, and they stay at the same jobs. They've been friends with the same people. And I also think that those friendships probably aren't as deep as me and Brooklyn, me and Caitlin.
Right.
We're best friends. I love you to death. I'm going to tell you all about my kids and my grandkids and all the things. You can talk to me about whatever, but also at a distance.
So maybe part of the difference is what we call a connection. Like the intimate, personal connection of sharing feelings and feeling what you feel and calling you every time I stub my toe. That's not a thing in the past.
Yeah.
That's a mental illness if you're going to call me like that. And I'm good. Carrying on.
Anyways, thanks for listening.
No, that just wasn't a thing. And so, yeah, my mom and a couple of her friends that she worked with, probably 3 of them, still go to lunch on a regular basis. One of them comes to Christmas now that she's a widow. There's those things that are still there.
Sent me a baby shower gift.
Yes.
And, we love her.
So that's a different kind of connection. Caitlin's not going to be sending my cousin a kid, that twice removed thing. And that's okay, but it's just a difference in what that connection is today.
Yeah.
Some people do find their connection in going square dancing lessons once a week because it's these same people and we're laughing and having a good time and it's my social letdown and that's all I need.
Yeah.
Whereas other people, I think, need something all the time. I have to be going and doing and never getting home until 9 o'clock. And
I used to very much be like that. Until I settled down and was married and a mom. I very much was getting off work and going to this place and hanging out with this person, and I'll see it at 10 o'clock. I'll be home,
Yeah.
And I was like that from a teenager.
Right.
So I think it's not a mental illness. It's
I was kidding, by the way. It is
just
definitely
my personality.
Not. It is the mental illness. I've got Freudian
Tell me what
slips.
you really think.
It It is not a mental illness, although sometimes I wonder if it's causing me one. You and I are very connected, and not so much with the other two kids. Sheridan's not far behind you, but Dakota, I forget that kid exists. Ever so often he calls and wants to know something about cooking, and that's about the communication that we get.
Is recorded. I'm going to make sure he hears that one.
Well, I did say it for your benefit. So how do I do it now that I'm 50? So when your dad died 4.5 years ago, I was already anchored here, which he intended.
Yeah.
You know, one of the reasons that he helped me start Futures Academy, a different kind of private school for kids in grades 5 through 12 here in Victoria, Texas, enrolling now for 24-25. One of the reasons he helped me start that company was, I really believe, and he never said this, but I believed it was so it would anchor me to Victoria, because my feeling was very much once the kids are out of the house, not just graduated, but once you've really moved out, you're not coming back.
Mm-hmm.
We weren't sure when that was going to happen for you because you had moved out and back a couple of times. Sheridan was out for the first time, and we couldn't believe that was happening. And Dakota had no plan at all; he was too young.
Yeah.
So, my plan was to go wherever he was, as I had always done. So, if he was working in West Texas, if he decided he wanted to go live and work in Oklahoma, we could do it. If we want to go to Pennsylvania, we could do it. And that was kind of my plan. And I think he was afraid I was going to make him move to Midland because that is not where he wanted to live. And it worked.
He thought we were all going to move out, and you're going to go, all right, start packing. Sell everything, buy a trailer.
Let me rent you a truck so you can get on out of here.
Yeah.
But it worked. And so when he was no longer here, I did have the connections that I had made. And the first people, you know, you were there that morning. The first people we called was my coworkers and went to be with them. And that's a connection that I think I probably take for granted sometimes until I really need them and they gather around me. Gosh, I should tell them that. Like, I try to make a point, but I should do it more often.
Well, and I think I've told you before that day is like cemented in my mind when Laura started praying and we were all hugging.
Yeah.
And I mean that they really they love you.
Well, and 3 of them weren't even planning on being there and had gotten the word that something's going on, get to work, and came.
Yeah.
And that's something that I don't think you can replace. And so ultimately, does it really matter where we get these connections? Does it matter where you find the people? It's different for everybody. For some people, church is absolutely the first place to go. And for some people, you know, a place where I can go shoot pool and dance is absolutely the first place to go. Everybody's different, and that's okay.
So I think what we've learned today is the best place to be the new kid is to kind of make yourself comfortable and make connections.
And to find those connections in what's true for you. Don't feel like you have to go take karate lessons or feel like you have to go do a certain thing. Find what's true to you, keep doing your thing, and when you're ready, those connections will be there.
Yeah, I like that a lot. Thank y'all for listening to another episode of Can I Have $20? You can find us everywhere online that you listen to podcasts. And Mom, I won't ask you for $20 today, but do you want to give us $20 worth of just general advice?
$20 worth of general advice.
Kind of expensive advice there, but
that is expensive advice. You know what?
A golden rule, or
maybe I can make one about being comfortable, and that is you are the youest you that you will ever be, and that's kind of based on Dr. Seuss.
Yeah,
that you know who you are is the truest thing you could ever be, and that is what you want to connect to.
Yeah, and that'll make you comfortable for sure.
All right.
Thanks for listening to another episode.
Bye.